feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go.
And a good evening to you, everyone. I'm Rich Mancuso. Welcome to this live edition on Thursday, October 17, 2024 of Keep It in the Ring, your home for combat sports for the next hour. We do this each and every week. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel live right now on YouTube, Rich Mancuso, to Keep It in the Ring. Like, comment, subscribe. Also on the AGT Network, Stream Punk Entertainment, and the Keep It in the Ring page. Like that also. Also at the bottom of the screen, my social media handles as always, X, formerly Twitter, Ring786, Facebook.com, Rich Mancuso. I'm also on Instagram, read my content, Latinosports.com, NewYorkSportsDay.com, and other outlets. Just Google my name, you'll find me and what I'm doing. Doing a lot of baseball, it's postseason, but I'm here. We're going to do what I love. Again, as I say, even though it's baseball postseason, it is pro boxing. We'll do the wrestling recaps. We'll analyze AEW coming off Wrestle Dream, WWE. A lot going on, as you know, with Monday Night Raw and what's happening, and they're getting ready for Crown Jewel and the Survivor Series in another month. Yep, we're coming down to the nitty gritty, and we have it for you here at Keep It in the Ring. And also the boxing calendar, light on the schedule, but some of the significant fights coming up this weekend and next at the bottom of your screen. I want to thank Carl Roberts for coming in with the AGT Network, handling the controls behind the scenes for me tonight. And that's because our good friend, colleague, and my great producer, Scott Churston, had an untimely death. His mom passed away just a couple of days ago. Lori Churston, untimely, not expected. And we've been through this, many of us before. So I know how Scott is feeling right now and his family. So from all of us here at Keep It in the Ring, Rich Mancuso, from Carl and everyone else, Scott, we got you. God bless you. May your mom rest in peace. Our thoughts and prayers are with you, my friend. See you back here with us next week. And I know Scott, the way he is, he's watching as well. But again, Scott, time to be with the family. You take care. God bless you and the family. All right, we're gonna get right to it, and hopefully, my guest Keith Idec, from who's a renowned boxing writer nationally, if not worldwide, he'll be on with us in a sec. Hopefully, I know he's tuned in with Yankees baseball postseason as well tonight. And if I stop a little bit, it's because the Mets and Yankees in New York, as you know, both in the postseason. There's a lot of buzz maybe about a Subway World Series. You can read that stuff on my content on New York Sports Day and Latino Sports. This is boxing. This is wrestling, some MMA and stuff, and talk about this controversial fight that happened just past Saturday in Saudi Arabia. Now, you know what happened. Dmitry Bivol, no longer the light heavyweight champion. They were trying to unify this title first time since 2002 when Roy Jones Jr. did it. And now Bivol, who was the reigning champ, no longer has it. Well, travesty. Yes, I could say it was a travesty. I could say it was an not justified, injustice. Bivol, to me, got robbed. We all know that. Some say that Artur Beterbiev deserved the bout that went the decision route. And, my friends, if you looked at the fight as closely as I did, you can argue that maybe Beterbiev narrowly won this fight. I mean, it could have went to the draw route. We'll analyze more of the scorecards in a moment. 114-114 draw. That's how I had it. 115-113, another judge. But one judge had this fight 116-112, which was an atrocity. How can you only give Bivol 4 rounds in this fight? Unbelievable. You know, even the promoters of this fight, Eddie Hearn, who has Bivol under the Matchroom banner wing, and Frank Warren from Queensbury said this was outrageous, a travesty, and that judge who scored it, 116-112, should never be allowed to score a fight again. As I say, always, it's 3 blind mice. Boxing is a subjective sport. You don't knock out your opponent, you're going to get decisions like that. In the history of the sport, we've seen it many, many times again and again. I thought maybe that they'd give this a draw. But the difference, 116, 112, unthinkable how a judge could come up with that score in this 12-round, significant and anticipated light heavyweight title fight to unify these titles. And so Artur Beterbiev, who had that 100% knockout ratio as champion with 3 of the major belts, well, he didn't knock his opponent down, so that streak is over. But that's insignificant at this point. What's more significant is how Dmitry Bivol got robbed. Calling for a rematch, which may not occur because, to my understanding, and Keith Idec, who hopefully will come on with us in a moment, broke the story on his Twitter feed today that the IBF is ordering a mandated opponent for Beterbiev to defend the title at first that he just won, a mandatory defense of the IBF title, part of the light heavyweight division, and that would be against mandatory defense against, I believe, Michael. And it would be, this guy that defeated Juan Pascal. So look, doesn't matter about a mandatory here, regardless of who it's going to be. Alphabet soup, again, organization IBF. What matters here is that we're talking about Dmitry Bivol, who should still be the champion. At least give him the draw at 114, 114. Let's take a look at some of those images. Carl, put them up. Let's take a look. We have some images of the fight, and I can analyze it a little bit. Carl, roll those images. There we go. Now, you can look here how Bivol is connecting. Then you could look here, maybe a connection by Beterbiev to Bivol. Keep rolling some more images, Carl. If we get some more, we can take a look. This is case in point. Many have pointed out how Beterbiev did not connect entirely. And many times throughout this 12-round contest, you will see, if you watch it again very closely, how Artur Beterbiev, the new champion and light heavyweight unified champion now in the 4-belt title era, how he did not connect to the body, but the punches were just hitting the gloves of Dmitry Bivol. Judges, obviously, who I called 3 blind mice at ringside, obviously saw it differently and felt that those punches were connecting enough to give him that decision, especially that bogus judge who gave it a 116, 112. Boxing goes through this every year more than once. If you watch this program on a regular basis, if you read my content on a regular basis, you know how I feel about this. How a fighter gets robbed. Oshik Forster can give you an example of that in the featherweight division, where his title was totally stripped from his weight by Canseco getting the win because the judges gave Canseco a bogus win and Forster lost his titles. Travesty there. We've seen it over the years, how many controversial fights occur because 3 blind mice is a ringside. Those I call the judges. And I respect them very much. But then again, when things like this happen, I can't give them the respect, especially a boxing judge at ringside who scores it 116, 112, when he could have very well given it a 114, 114 decision, and then we have a draw, and there is more of a need for a rematch, which I hope does happen because Dmitry Bivol deserves a rematch. What are the solutions to this? Well, the one solution I've always had is to have former fighters judge fights at ringside. They are the best ones that can do this because they've been in there. They know what it is like. They know what punches look like. They know how punches are connected to the body. They know when a fighter is as technical as Bivol is, that he's going to be that way, be that type of a fighter. So what happens? We get controversy. When three blind mice at ringside don't know what they're doing. You could look at 12 men in a jury box and wondering if they're thinking right, rendering something that could determine somebody's conviction or not. In many ways, boxing judges I compared to a jury of 12, where sometimes you just don't know. And the best way for a fighter to make sure that a win is justified is to just get the knockout. But we all know that's not possible all the time. Not everybody could be the way Artur Beterbiev was, where he went into this fight with a 100% knockout ratio. We also know that Dmitry Bivol is a gentleman, and he has respected the decision. Yes, he felt he won the fight, but did not go on a rant and rave like the promoters did, that being Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn more so because he's under the Matchroom banner. So Bivol said there were no excuses to be offered, but he said he congratulated the new champ. He deserved it. And yes, in a roundabout way, said he wants the rematch. But then the IBF comes out, according to Keith Idec, to say that there was going to be a mandatory first for Beterbiev. I want your thoughts on this, my friends. Should there be a rematch granted to Dmitry Bivol, who was a unified light heavyweight champion in the past 2 years? The blemish now on his record, not deserved. Of course, he defeated Canelo Alvarez during this title reign at 175 when Canelo moved up, and Bivol just commanded that fight from beginning to end. I'd like to know what you think. I'd like you to comment and also subscribe and let me know what you think. I want you to look now again at the punch stats, as I was going to do with Keith Idec. He's probably busy. I know that he had some business to attend to, and perhaps he'll come on during the course of this first half hour of the program. And if he does, of course, we'll get him on right away. Quickly, let's look at the judges' scorecards and give you an idea how this fight was scored and how one judge had only 4 rounds for Dmitry Bivol, when obviously he had some more than that. Carl, yes, is there Keith there? Keith? Carl, do we have Keith Idec there? It says he's I'm reading that he is here. So let's put him on then. I want to go over this with Keith.
Yes, he is in the background.
Okay. Keith, are you there? There you are.
Rich, how you doing?
Keith, thanks for coming on, my friend. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. How you doing?
Keith is a well-established, renowned boxing writer nationally, known all over the world. Great writer. And, of course, Keith watched this fight like I did and all of us in boxing. Keith, what was your opinion about this decision? I know you said it could have at least been scored a draw like I did at 114. What's your total take on it?
In real time, Rich, I thought that Bivol won 115, 113, but there were swing rounds that I thought could have gone either way. And in those cases, I really couldn't quibble with Beterbiev winning 115, 113, or it being a draw 114, 114. I just hope that they do it again. It wasn't an epic fight by any stretch. It wasn't Corrales Castillo or anything like that, but it was reasonably entertaining. It was very competitive, and I'd like to see them do it again to kind of hopefully eliminate whatever controversy there is here. I've seen people throw the word robbery around haphazardly.
Yeah.
It was not a robbery, in my opinion. It was not. Look, this is the subjective nature of scoring boxing.
As I said, yep.
I mean, it depends on what the judges are seeing, what they prefer, which side of the ring that they're sitting on. Your vision can be blocked sometimes. I think in this case, Bivol blocked a lot of punches with his glove, and he even said with his left glove, that's what created the bruising beneath his eye. Often, Beterbiev was hitting him with such blunt force that he was knocking his own glove into his eye, and that's what caused the swelling and the knot or whatever it was beneath his eye. So
yeah, we have an image of that. Carl, put that image up of Bivol in the eye when you get a chance. We'll put that up.
Yeah,
there it is. Exactly what Keith you're describing right there. Yeah. So he was touched, no doubt about it. But I go back to the subjective part of this and talking early. I don't know if you heard my opening about, and you're a boxing guy as much as I am, and how so many fights end up like this, the controversy. And again, I had it 114, 114. That's how I had it. But this one judge giving 4 rounds to Bivol, Bivol, only 4 rounds in the first, second, eighth, and ninth rounds. To me, that's not justified. 4 rounds.
Yeah, and Vadim Kornilov, Bivol's manager, has, as part of their protest to the IBF, WBA, WBC, and WBO, he noted that he wants Paul Cardini, who was the Polish judge who scored the fight 116-112 for Beterbiev, he wants some reasonable explanation as to why he scored the fight that way. He's not going to get that. And look, I mean, this is, the subjective nature of scoring boxing. If you don't knock someone out, you're always leaving yourself at risk to lose a fight. Now, of course, Beterbiev was the puncher in this fight, so it was unlikely probably that Bivol was going to knock Beterbiev out. But at the same time, if you want to eliminate the possibility of losing a close fight on the scorecard, you should be more aggressive and try to take out your opponent. That's easier.
Exactly. Right.
When you're fighting a huge puncher like Beterbiev, who's still very dangerous at 39 years old. So, Bivol, I think, will learn something from the experience, as will Beterbiev. I think they might approach the fight slightly differently. Because frankly, from Bivol's perspective, if you go into the rematch and fight the same way, well, shame on you, because you're leaving yourself in the exact same position. Now, he can't be reckless because Beterbiev's too big of a puncher for that. So I hope that they do the rematch. They obviously ordered this mandatory
IBF. Yeah.
Against Michael Eifert today. I've spoken to a lot of people today related to this. I spoke to Bob Arum, among others, and Bob said they'll just speak to Beterbiev, see if he even wants to do the fight. No one wants to pay for it. Arum told me he thought it would be a 2-round fight at a maximum. Michael Eifert is 13-1 with 5 knockouts. The best win on his record was against Jean Pascal, and he looked very good in that fight. Actually,
right.
Still working for Boxing Scene, I covered that fight off of the stream. I wasn't at ringside in Quebec, but Eifert did win the fight for whatever it's worth, but Pascal was an aged fighter at that point. He didn't beat John Pascal in 2010. He beat him in 2023. So that's the best win of his career. So does that warrant getting a title shot? Well, that depends on who you ask. And if you ask the IBF, they think that he's justifiably the number one contender. If you ask anyone in their right mind, is Michael Eifert the number one? Is he the best light heavyweight in the world besides Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev? No one would say yes. So, that's
no, I mean, it's because we have to also see, because we know that David Benvenidez has made a cause that he should get the winner of this fight, and now would be for Beterbiev. But obviously, that's not going to happen anytime soon. Have you heard anything about Benvenidez in this picture at all, Keith?
Well, Benavidez is going to fight David Morrell.
Right.
Date isn't completely solidified. It might be January 25th, but that's a very intriguing fight. The winner of that fight certainly would have the type of win that he could say deserves or warrants getting a shot at Beterbiev or Bivol, whoever wins the rematch, for sure. It's a risky fight for David Benavidez. I give him a lot of credit because David Benavidez has questioned Canelo's appetite for these types of fights anymore in the twilight of his career. And then he went and took a fight against David Morrell that is a very risky fight, especially against a guy who does not have a huge resume. Everyone who has seen David Morrell fight knows how good he is, but I think he has 11 fights or 10 fights at this point.
I think he's 12-0, young, aggressive Cuban. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that'd be an easy fight with Benvenidez, but what does the IBF have to say in this whole matter besides ordering a rematch? I mean, it's boxing politics. We know that.
Nothing.
We know that.
This is what I want to see happen, Rich, and I'm tired of fighters using mandatories as an excuse to get easy paydays. Artur Beterbiev has fought 21 times. He's been a professional boxer for 11 years. He has fought only 21 times in those 11 years, including in the developmental phase of his career. He should have 35 fights on his record. He has 21. And the reason
Right.
because he has suffered many injuries, which is unfortunate. It's the nature of the beast, and he's injury prone, and it is what it is. Even the Bivol fight was delayed yet again because of a knee injury.
The injury, right.
So my point is, he's wasted enough of his career, and he'll turn 40 years old in January. He had a contractual squabble with his former promoter, Yvonne Michel, which also cost him some time out of the ring. He's had various injuries and numerous surgeries. The last thing that he should be doing as he comes upon his 40th birthday is wasting time fighting Michael Eifert. That just should not happen.
Then that's not what the fans want to see.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the fans don't want to see it, but no one should be forced to pay for it either. Top Rank, ESPN, they should not be forced to pay for him to fight Michael Eifert for a fight that, like I said, Bob Arum said to me, thinks it'll be a 2-round fight. All right, let's just say 4 rounds. Whoop-dee. I mean, who cares, right? And no one wants to see this fight. No one outside of Michael Eifert's family or the promotional company that represents him wants to see this. So hopefully Beterbiev will tell the IBF what they can do with their title. And frankly, tell the WBA, the WBC, and the WBO the same thing. Save yourself a lot of money in sanctioning fees, because we know who the undisputed light heavyweight champion. We know who the fully unified light heavyweight champion is. This undisputed is debatable because of the nature of the outcome. We think
Right.
I think that Bivol won, so it is disputed in some sense. But we know who the light heavyweight champion is now. We don't need the IBF, WBA, WBC, and WBO to tell us that. And if the IBF is the sanctioning organization that is going to stand in the way from this rematch happening, well, then just give up the title. No one cares. Is there anyone who's going to say, oh, he doesn't have the IBF title, I'm not watching this fight?
Exactly. I totally agree. Keith Idec, my renowned boxing writer, journalist, he's the best in the craft. There's no doubt. Keith knows boxing good as anyone. I want to go to the punch stats again of this fight, if you don't mind for a moment. Carl, put these up and take a look at this. And do punch stat, that's the scoring. And again, that's the scorecard where you can see that first, second, eighth, and ninth rounds. But here are the punch stats, Keith. And do punch stats really tell the story? Yeah, I mean, if they're telling it here, then why does this judge give it 116, 112? I mean, Bivol 50% of his punches, and Beterbiev 29%. So does that tell the story here at all?
Well,
or should we just go on what they're looking at ringside and how with punch stats?
I would say that punch stats are a very loose guide that you could use in the aftermath of a fight, because obviously judges don't have access to CompuBox during the fight. But the person Bob Canobio, a friend of ours, who founded CompuBox many years ago, would be the first one to tell you that you shouldn't be using CompuBox to determine who you think won a fight.
Exactly. Yeah.
And he would be the first one to tell you that. It's a loose guide, like I said, and there's a lot of human error involved. I mean, it's very difficult, just like it is to judge boxing in real time if your seat is not
very difficult. It's not. We've talked about this time and time again. Something that I could never do. All right, subjective, and it's difficult. It is. It's the most difficult thing to do is to judge a fight, and that's because you're looking at judges look at fights that you just meant different angles too. They're in 3 different angles. Do you put the referee back in control who can have a say on it, who's right there in the middle of the action? Or do you bring in former fighters who know the sport? And then again, that's another thing, because that would be too maybe favoritism towards a fighter they know. I've talked to Jorge Linares and some more former champions about that, Keith. What's the resolution to this? Because it seems like it doesn't end.
I don't really know what the resolution is, and you and I have been covering the sport for decades. It's a very subjective science, like I said, and I don't, they've tried 5 judges, they've tried a lot of other things, and that's just the nature of it. So you try to get the most competent judges in all fights, but of course the fights at the highest level. I don't think that having fighters score fights is going to change anything, because Rich, as you said, there'd be some conflicts of interest there. You'd have to make sure that so-and-so didn't spar with so-and-so and was his friend 20 years ago. It brings up a whole other set of problems. And frankly, someone who was punched in the head for 20 years might not be the best person at 50 years old to be sitting ringside, bright light shining on them and trying to see what happened. So
Right. They always questioned the late Billy Costello, former champ, about that because he became a judge in New York State,
And I
and
don't mean,
so
but Rich, I don't mean that a particular fighter couldn't judge a fight well. I'm just saying in general, I don't know that that's the route to go either.
all right. So maybe a National Boxing Commission could have better scrutiny. I've always been calling for that. Old school Rich looking for a National Boxing Commission that's never going to occur. So Keith, before we go around the horn briefly about some other developments in the sport, what's going to be the resolution here? Will there be a rematch now that the IBF has said there's a mandatory? Bivol deserve this rematch, as I believe he does, and many do. What do you think the resolution is going to be? Will we see a rematch?
Well, I think we'll see an immediate rematch because the rematch is never going to be a hotter property than it is now. Again, Beterbiev is about to turn 40 years old. He doesn't need to waste any more time with any other fights, frankly. And I think there's so much money available now because the Saudis are involved, at least in the short term in boxing, where they can pay Michael Eifert a reasonable step-aside fee, maybe give him some sort of tune-up fight on the Beterbiev-Bivol undercard to keep him busy because he's only fought one time since he beat John Pascal, and that was more than a year and a half ago now. The guy needs to stay sharp in some respect.
Yeah, we hardly know who he is again. He's not relevant. I mean, I have problems bringing up his name again. That's my memory is based on top of it. Could it happen, a rematch in the new year, like in the next 5 months?
Yeah, if you're asking me what I think is going to happen, I do think there will be a rematch. There's too much debate about the outcome of the fight for it not to happen. I think as long as Beterbiev wants the fight, and I see no reason why he wouldn't want the fight. He just feels like he beat Bivol, so why wouldn't he want the rematch? And again, this IBF complication is not going to prevent it from happening. And if Michael Eifert, for whatever reason, doesn't take step-aside money, which would be pretty foolish because it's free money, right? I mean, it's just they're giving you money to give you some sort of tune-up fight that you should win. I don't see, and if he doesn't, for whatever reason, take it or it becomes more complicated, then Beterbiev should just give up the IBF belt because I reiterate, and I will continue reiterating to whoever asks me, no one cares. No one cares whether Beterbiev has the IBF title or any of the other three. He's the best light heavyweight in the world at the moment. Bivol can change that narrative if he goes and wins the rematch, but they don't need the titles at this point. And I understand why titles are important to the fighters, and especially lower level guys who are trying to get into high profile fights or get mandatory challenges and change their lives for their families. And I understand and appreciate that to a degree. It's not relevant here. They don't need these titles.
Good points, Keith. Speaking of Bivol, and let's look at Canelo Alvarez now. Carl put up Canelo's face. The face of boxing, as everybody believes he is. Does Canelo Alvarez get another shot at Bivol now that Bivol is no longer the light heavyweight champ? Or is that now out of the picture completely?
Well, that fight has been devalued, unfortunately, because Bivol lost. And Bivol and his team are just completely focused on getting the rematch with Beterbiev, as they should be. He made over $10 million on Saturday, and he'll be paid handsomely for the rematch. So it's not as if he made $4 million when he fought Canelo, which at that point was the biggest fight of the year. So he made more than double that amount on Saturday. So the money available to him for this fight would probably exceed what he would get even for the Canelo rematch, because that's why the rematch didn't happen with Canelo, because Bivol and his team felt that they were lowballed after winning the fight rather convincingly. It was 115, 113 on all three scorecards, but anyone who saw that fight, whether you're at ringside or watching it on television, he won 8 or 9 rounds at a minimum. He convincingly beat Canelo. So I think they're focused on the Beterbiev rematch, not the Canelo rematch, and that's what they'll pursue.
And not to say also that the kings and princes of Saudi Arabia, as I call them, have said they'd love to do the rematch over there in Saudi Arabia, and that's probably where they'll do it again. because that's where all the action is right now, where all the money is. And I'm sure that's going to happen. Bivol and Beterbiev again sometime in the new year. Keith, one other thing. What have you heard about Ryan Garcia? Because, I hear about him every day, as we all do on social media. Carl put up his latest tweets on X. They call X now. Look at this. I mean, it just doesn't end. And I get a kick out of this. And I put this up every week because, you know what? He's a social media phenom. The things he says are crazy, but they're funny. They're ludicrous. Here he's ranting also about the fight and a little this, little that, as he does every week. What do you hear? He's on suspension. Most of all, with the lawsuit with Evan Henney, the suspension with the New York State Athletic Commission, and that's lifted at the beginning of April. Does Devin Henney, Henney and Garcia rematch next year?
Well, they should. I mean, it's the fight that everyone wants to see because there's so much controversy that came out of him failing the PED test. And, obviously this lawsuit further complicates everything. So who knows whether Devin Haney will want to fight him again because he feels like the sport is inherently dangerous, as we all know. And then Devin Haney feels like he intentionally cheated and he's lying about how the substance got into his system. Who knows? Only Ryan Garcia and maybe a couple of people in his inner circle know that. But they should fight again. It's the most marketable fight for both guys, and Devin Haney wants to right that wrong on his. It's not on his record anymore because it was officially changed to a no contest,
right.
Technically undefeated. But it's the biggest fight out there for both guys, and we're only 6 months away at this point from
right.
About 6 months away or so from Ryan Garcia's suspension being lifted. A lot of things could happen in Ryan Garcia's life over the next 6 months because, unfortunately, the kid is unhinged and he says and does a lot of wacky things, and you just hope he's able to get his life together.
That's the most important thing. His mentality is okay.
Yeah.
But you never know with him. You just don't know every day when you read his social media feeds. How about the heavyweight division? We got the big rematch coming up December 21st with Usyk and Fury. Who do you like there, and where does that stand? Most of all, is that fight going to happen for sure?
Yes, it's going to happen, barring injuries in training camp, of course. But I wouldn't be surprised if Fury won the rematch. The first fight was very competitive. I think he'll be more aggressive in this fight. I think he'll try to bully Usyk, which is a tactic that has worked for him against other fighters, not necessarily a southpaw who's smaller and moves the way that Usyk moves. But it is a strategy that has worked for him. It obviously worked for him against Deontay Wilder. I think he'll try to be more physical with Usyk in the rematch, try to bully him, like I said, and rough him up, maybe bend the rules a little bit and make Usyk completely uncomfortable, maybe try to take him out of his game plan a little bit. It's a very interesting fight because the first fight was very competitive. I don't think that Fury, I think Usyk deserved the nod, but it was a split decision. It's the only loss on Fury's record. And, we're seeing it again. And like I mentioned earlier, Rich, there's so much money from the Saudis being poured into the sport right now. We're getting to see most of the fights that we have long wanted to see, in this case, twice, not just once. So, I understand the criticism of the Saudis just in general, the Saudi Arabian government, I get all of that. But if you're a boxing fan who has tolerated a lot of nonsense and a lot of mismatches and a lot of idiotic things that should never happen, and you have stuck with this sport for as long as you have, I hope you're enjoying this period when you're seeing fights like Beterbiev and Bivol, Fury and Usyk, a lot of great fights, and I think in 2025 we'll see a lot of good fights as well. Hopefully we'll see Gervonta Davis in the type of fights that we want to see him in.
Exactly. Yeah, he's coming back in December, right? Didn't he have that fight? He's got right in mid-December in Texas, in Houston, Texas. And then again, we'll go back to the heavyweight division. I'm going to wrap this up with you in a moment. Again, Keith Idec, thanks for your time. These are great insights. You've answered a lot of questions for us. Keith, but in that heavyweight division, though, you also have a guy named Daniel Dubois, who all of a sudden is making a big impact and wants a shot at those titles as well.
Yeah, and also if they decide to do this Joshua rematch, because that is also a possibility. That's a lucrative fight for Daniel Dubois. So maybe he won't want to wait, because Fury and Usyk are still not fighting for 2 months.
Right.
Maybe want to wait for because anything could happen. The guy could get cut or injured or whatever, and then is Dubois supposed to wait till next summer to get the winner of that fight? He loses all his momentum, and he now knows without question what he could do to Anthony Joshua, and that's still a big fight because that would be and they're not going to go through another rebuilding phase with Anthony Joshua. He doesn't have the time. He's 35 years old.
No.
He doesn't have the appetite to do that. And they don't have the time to do that. And even with Joshua being as big a star as he is, Rich, they're not going to keep paying, and people aren't going to keep showing up for another year and a half to rebuild him into position just to get where he is now. He could just go fight Dubois and try to right this wrong. And if he can't, maybe he just calls it a career. He's got a lot of money. He
doesn't need to fight it. I know he doesn't need to take another punch the rest of his life. He wants to retire. What round the horn quick too is this Mike Tyson, Jake Paul extravaganza coming up mid next month. I have no interest in it. Do you?
Well, I'm paid to have an interest in it, so so I will be in Texas that week. For fight week, it's interesting.
The Amanda Serrano Katie Taylor rematch has the interest for me on that. That one I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, there are real boxing matches on the undercard. The main event is what it is, but it is going to generate more mainstream attention than any other boxing match that you and I will see this year, including Fury Usyk, including Beterbiev Bivol, including any of the other great fights that have happened over the course of this year. That's an unfortunate indictment of where the sport is now, but it's reality. Because Mike Tyson still resonates with people more than any other active boxer. That is a fact.
That's what people tell, the fans that don't follow the sport like us, Keith. And then they talk to me, friends and fans, that they're going to watch that fight because they're still amazed about Mike Tyson and his ability at almost, 60 years of age to do this. And Jake Paul, the phenom he's become. That's why they're going to order and watch it. See, the sport, you just touched on it briefly about all the money in Saudi Arabia. I believe the sport is very healthy. There's a lot of money in it with the streaming networks and everything else, as you know. And that division at 140 still, to me, draws the most interest, including next weekend. Is Regis Prograis coming back and against Cottrell, which should be an interesting 10-round fight next weekend.
Yeah, Prograis is coming off an unbelievably lopsided loss, something that he never thought would happen against Devin Haney. It's his first fight since then. His first fight in about over 10 months, actually. I spoke to Regis recently, and he's very much looking forward to fighting Jack Catterall, who probably beat Josh Taylor in their first fight and didn't get the nod, and beat him in their rematch. And of course, the only other loss on Regis's record is a majority decision defeat to Josh Taylor. So he can go beat the guy who beat the guy and rejuvenate his career. Regis is now 35 years old himself and in the twilight of his career, but a fun fighter, a guy who we have always had a pleasure dealing with. I'd like to see him get back on the winning track, but Jack Catterall is a very good boxer, a good contrast of styles. Catterall's more of a boxer, whereas Prograis more of a puncher. It's a very interesting fight. It's next, it's a week from Saturday.
That's right.
Over there in the UK.
Part of the fall boxing calendar, as I say. But to me, Keith, the sport is healthy. It's just that it's not as mainstream as it was. And that's a shame because we all know what a great sport boxing is. But again, to wrap this up before I give you the fact of the week, because every guest of mine has to have the fact of the week, as you know. You've done it once with me before. The controversy just puts a dark eye on it. It's just a dark eye. That's why fans can't respect the sport. That don't know the sport, and even those who do, like me and you. Sometimes the controversy takes a good side away from it.
Well, Rich, I don't know if I would say the sport is healthy. I would say that there are people making a lot of money at the moment because of
in that respect, healthy, we're making a lot of money.
Right.
But not healthy as far as the confusion. I mean, there's still too many titles out there in the mix, and you don't know who the average champion is. But yeah, there's a lot of money in it. There's no doubt about it, especially with the Saudi Arabians, the kings and princes involved. there are. And I wish there would be more fights back here because it seems like the attention is there. All right, Keith, going to wrap this up. You ready to take a shot at Fact of the Week with me?
Sure.
All right, Carl, roll it. It's Fact of the Week until it's Fact of the All right, Keith, it's very brief. Remember, it's not trivia, it's a fact. A Hall of Fame fighter who never refused an autograph. He never refused an autograph. He signed everyone. I can't believe it when I found this out, but it's the truth. And then I can tell you why he doesn't refuse signing autographs.
Well, I have no idea, but I would also have no idea how anyone would know that.
Well, it's Rich Mancuso. I would know that.
No, I'm saying, how would anyone know that he never refused an autograph? I mean,
I know. Oh, that part of it, yeah.
Second of every day. I mean,
well, I could tell you, it was Muhammad Ali. You know Muhammad Ali better than I did. But it was Muhammad Ali. And someone close to him told me this. And then I also read up on it. I wouldn't give you a fact unless it was a fact, Keith. And he did that because when he was young, he had once asked Sugar Ray Robinson, the great Hall of Famer, for an autograph, and he refused to give it to him. So since then, he said, you know what? I'm not Sugar Ray. I'm Muhammad Ali. I'm signing an autograph when someone wants it. That's what's been told to me, and that's a fact.
It's a noble thing, but I would say this, not to argue with you about this, Rich, but I would say this. For much of his life, he was one of the most famous people on the planet. I find it hard to believe that he signed every autograph ever when you're the most famous person on earth. It's just not possible.
I don't know, because I never asked him, but I know few people did, and he didn't refuse. But you could be very well right, because you're right about everything in this sport. I will never doubt I will never doubt your credibility as a longtime colleague, even when you were covering baseball at times up in the press box with me. I would never doubt your credibility. You know this sport as good as anyone out there, and I mean it. Not because you're just a friend. You know the sport. That's why I got you here. That's why I count on your knowledge. You back me up as well. And again, I appreciate taking your valuable time. Come on with me tonight on Keep It in the Ring, Keith.
And just so you know, because I know baseball is among our
the
Yankees. Luke Weaver just gave up a 2-run home run in the bottom of the
I
ninth.
see it. I've got the clicker on here. The great Luke Weaver, it's 5-5. And I haven't checked the Mets score yet, and I'm wearing their colors tonight.
So I guess Luke Weaver, as it turns out, is not Mariano Rivera.
No, but that series, and not to get off boxing, but we're wrapping up. We could talk this, but that series is not going to end anytime soon. I'm covering both, so you imagine what I'm under right now. You know,
crazy, my friend.
Keith Idec, where the fans reach you? Where can they read you now, and how do they reach out to you?
Oh, thanks, Rich. I appreciate that. So I just started my new one of my new roles. We just launched on Monday, uncrowned.com, in conjunction with Yahoo Sports. It's Ariel Hawani's new platform. There are boxing, MMA, and professional wrestling components to the website. There's something there for everyone that is a fan of any combat sports. I only write boxing, but if you're an MMA fan or professional wrestling fan, there's plenty there for you to read. The boxing content is going to be coming, not only from me, but from other very talented writers on the staff and people who are really committed to making this project work. It's got some money behind it. It's got some influence behind it. So we're really excited about that. I also expanded my role recently with Boxing News in the UK, which is kind of the UK's answer to The Ring. It's a long-standing magazine and also a website. It's been in existence since 1909. I'm the US correspondent for them. So those are my two primary gigs right now. My boxing Twitter handle is what it's always been, at Idec Boxing, IDEC, just my last name, Boxing. So hoping in this new role to be able to provide maybe some stories that you wouldn't be able to read elsewhere. That's my goal, obviously. I'm going to have a story on the site tomorrow. If we could just mention real quick about the IBF. I was working on this story for a couple of weeks already, and they just happened to make it an even more timely story based on ordering this Michael Eifert Artur Beterbiev fight today. So
I anxiously look forward to reading that. I thought it would be up today, but I'll catch it tomorrow.
Yep, it'll be up.
As much as you've filled us, you just filled us in more about the situation, and as always, you did it on Keep It in the Ring with Rich Mancuso, and you did it really well. Thank you, my friend. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Good to see you.
I'll see you at ringside soon. Okay.
Absolutely. I'll see you soon.
Okay, Keith. Keith Idec, go back to the baseball, and we'll read your content tomorrow.
Thank you.
They have it. That was great. That was great. It's worth. I could have him on for hours. He's just so knowledgeable and could detail and analyze this sport of boxing, the politics of it, and everything else that goes on. And you heard it. The whole thing is with Bivol and Beterbiev and where that stands. And got to feel that there will be a rematch, a consensus, I believe. There'll be a rematch sometime next year. We'll come back from this brief break, but Keep It in the Ring. We're going to take our first brief one of the night. A lot more to come. Got more boxing news, an MMA note or two, and then go into the wrestling with the AEW coming off Wrestle Dream and WWE. This is Keep It in the Ring. I'm Rich Mancuso. Subscribe, comment, like my channel on YouTube. Also, AGD Network and Stream Punk Entertainment and the Keep It in the Ring page. Back in a moment. Keep It in the Ring. I'm Rich Mancuso. Stay with us.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go.
Yeah, we'll talk about pandemonium in the weeks to come, coming up in March. Again, with a Jason Knight, Desiree's Assault Championship Wrestling, ACW. More boxing news. Let's go through it briefly, as quick as I can. And, of course, on the undercard of the Bivol-Beterbiev fight, light heavyweight Ben Whitaker, 8-0-1, fifth round technical draw. Against Leon Cameron. Whitaker, the 2020 Olympic silver medalist. The end of the fifth round, it was over. Both fighters tumbled over the top rope. You had to see it. It was like looking at a WWE Monday Night Raw event or a PLE event. And Whitaker sustained a leg injury. Hope he's okay. But a crazy, wacky fight that was. And WC female featherweight champ Sky Nicholson remains undefeated, 12-0, punting her opponent Raven Chapman 10 rounds and retained her title. That was another good one. It was a good undercard before Bivol and Beterbiev on Zone pay-per-view. And this guy, Chris Eubanks Jr., who's had an up-and-down career and still does not deal with his dad, who was a great champion there over in the UK. And I knew his dad because he was in the Bronx a lot at the Morris Park Boxing Gym. Seventh round TKO. Comes back and beats Zamata. Knockdowns in the first and sixth rounds, and twice, fourth knockdown, the fight was stopped. Eubank Jr. is out 34-3, 2 knockouts, comes back as a middleweight, back after a year. But afterwards, it was interesting in the middle of the ring as he challenged face-to-face the great Conor Benn, who's almost like a legend over there in the UK, who has a foul mouth and could be a nasty, dirty fighter. Eubanks Jr. wants Conor Benn, and I'm sure that Queensberry, Matchroom, and all the others out there will put that fight together. Chris Eubanks Jr., he instigated the face-to-face in the middle of the ring. He wants that fight. I'm sure that might be something we're going to see in the new year. And Jay Opapaya, a guy we don't see much in the cruiserweight division, the champion, but very talented. Stayed undefeated, 26-0, 20 knockouts. The IBF cruiserweight title, the sixth round TKO over Jack Massey. That was going to be a nasty one. It turned out it wasn't as nasty as Opapaya retains the cruiserweight title. A division we don't hear much about in boxing since Evander Holyfield had those titles years back. earlier in the 2000s here. This Saturday, again, on Prime Video, not pay-per-view. They're doing a regular show on Prime Video, Amazon. The great Tszyu, who lost to Sebastian Fedora, lost his titles at 154, back in the ring, 12 rounds against Bakar for the IBF junior middleweight title. Will be interesting to see how Tszyu rebounds after that bloodfest he had with Fedora back in March. And I'm sure Tszyu will be ready. He says he is. He looks good. I watched the press conferences and the weigh-in, I think it was going to be tomorrow or next week. It's Amazon Prime Video. That's coming up. And Tszyu's return to the ring. The Division World Champ, Emmanuel Navarrete. And you got to see this one. He defends the WBO junior lightweight title against his rival, Oscar Valdez, a Mexican main event. A war it will be. Not a war. It's a war, a fight war, as they call it. A Mexican boxing brawl. And they'll probably go at it like they're in a telephone booth, toe-to-toe, head-to-head. That on ESPN, Top Rank, Saturday, December 7th from Phoenix or in Glendale at the Footprint Center. Good fight to look forward to as we wrap up the boxing year in December. 3 fights, including the undefeated Cuban prospect Yoenis Tellez versus Johan Gonzalez, 10-round super welterweight. That's also going to be on the Amazon card. And WBO is allowing junior middleweight champ Sebastian Fedora, who we just talked about, they've ordered a voluntary title defense of his title against against any active opponent in the division at 154. So in other words, Fedora has to face who the WBO wants. Again, more boxing politics. And because they say so, in 180 days afterwards, if he doesn't, well, what do you think's going to happen? Fedora loses the title on that technicality of not following a mandate of the WBO, the World Boxing Organization, one of the major sanctioned alphabet groups in the sport. And my friends, that is disgusting. Fedora deserved that title, beat Tszyu for it, and a great fight this year. Many say could be Fight of the Year candidate or Fight of the Year. They went at it. It was a bloodfest, a great fight. Fedora deserves that title, should keep it, and should face mandatories if they say so, but not because the WBO is ordering that he has to within 180 days. That's what I always call boxing politics, and why this sport at many times doesn't get the respect it rightfully deserves. Our UFC MMA note, let's get to that quick. Final card of the year, 2 championship bouts. The UFC welterweight title, Bengal Muhammad will defend against the undefeated Shavkai Rakhmonyan, and I think we have an image of that, of this great MMA fighter. Carl put it up. There we go. 2 championship bouts, part of a highlight end of the year card for the MMA and the UFC. Muhammad, someone, if you're a UFC fan, you know what I'm talking about. He's up there with Portier and John Jones and so forth, and he'll be one of the highlights ending the year for the UFC MMA calendar. And Conor McGregor, he's talking going forward. He says to fight Chandler, it's going to happen when? Caught the Dana White's going to make the official announcement at some point, but not anytime soon. McGregor's out there. He's been attending a lot of fights at ringside over in the UK or in Ireland, wherever it is. He's making himself known. He's also a part owner of Bare Knuckles Fighting Championships. So he's not out of the limelight. He's not out of it completely, but the fight with Chandler is what every USC MMA fight fan wants to see in the octagon, and I think we're going to have it. All right. Let's get to the pro wrestling stuff. Go through it rapidly. There's an awful lot of that. Let me bring in Carl. Carl from the AGT Network, part of this program every week, filling in for our buddy Scott Cherson, who's mourning the untimely passing of his mom. Carl, how are you, my friend? Keep it in the ring. Welcome.
Well, thank you. It's good to be back. Again,
all
Scott,
right,
from us over here real quick, we want to give our condolences.
Yes, we do. And Scott will be back in the fold with us next week. But our prayers and thoughts to him, his wife, and his family. Carl, let's look at AEW just coming off. I took Wrestle Dream, again, much too long, over 4 hours. Tony Khan, AEW, that's what he loves to do. 5-hour pay-per-view events, and he keeps doing it. Apparently, the fans like that. I don't. But brutality continues. They can go a little too far again. We saw this. Put those images up. Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson for that AEW title. Became a feud, became a rivalry, became a war. And again, Danielson loses the title because supposedly he's retiring. And if that was his retirement match, that wasn't a way to do it because it was brutal again. And they all ganged up on him. They tried to suffocate him again in the middle of the ring. They stretched him out. And he had to go to the hospital. And Tony Khan supposedly accompanied Danielson in the ambulance to a hospital there. But the thing in Atlanta, Georgia area, but the thing is that worked out perfect for the storyline because Tony Khan got on his private jet immediately after the pay-per-view was over and went to London to see his Jacksonville Jaguars, where he's an owner of the team. That's why he wasn't at the post-media scrum that he always does.
Now, real quick with this match, it was handpicked. Well, it's supposedly reported that it was handpicked by Danielson to have Moxley win and take him out because the injuries have actually gotten worse.
He's got a bad neck. He's going to get surgery, Danielson. Retirement, I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. He's going to stay in the fold with AEW, though, backstage, being behind the scenes. But what a brutal way to go, though. Now, where does Moxley go now with this title? There's so many gunning for his belt, for that title now.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know what's going on with Moxley because now, if you look, there's a whole nother side of Moxley with everybody else. So the question is, where's this all going?
Yeah. AEW is going somewhere with it because they do have to make mega new media rights deal with Time Warner Discovery. So, they've got a lot of talent. They just know where to put it in. With Rampage is one of their programs that's going off the air. Still got a lot of television time. And, of course, they're having pay-per-views every month, and they're going to get a streaming network eventually like WWE has with Peacock for the moment. Right. Also at Wrestle Dream, the second event.
And their next pay-per-view is actually next month. Yeah,
November 23rd in Newark, New Jersey at the Prudential. It's Full Gear, which I hope to attend that. I hope to attend it. This one, Ospreay, Ricochet, and they're just turning into a trio match for the international title. Interesting here how Kyle Fletcher turned on Ospreay.
Yes,
and there again, that surprised me. But then again, you saw that coming.
Oh yes, you see that all coming.
And of course, Ricochet adds a whole new dimension to AEW, coming from the WWE, and then MVP and his new Hurt business that he's got, and now trying to recruit Swerve, who turned him down. I think eventually Swerve's going to be with MVP. In the meantime, MVP is going to see Bobby Lashley with him soon. And then you'll probably have a Bobby Lashley Strickland feud and match going. Yeah. And that'll happen. And eventually you're going to see MVP have Swerve Strickland turn on Prince Nama. And then you're going to go. But in the meantime, you'll get a good match with Lashley and Swerve. That you can see that happening. Yashira, MJF, Daniel Garcia gets attacked. Adam Cole goes after MJF. MJF more vicious than he ever was as a heel in AEW. But MJF Garcia, or is it going to be MJF Adam Cole? Because that's where they're looking at now.
I think it's going to be MJF and Adam Cole.
Yeah, former friends are now enemies. Yep. And Darby Allin opened the open challenge, had the coffin death drop. He wins his match. Darby Allin, and again, great wrestling character. The coffin drop. Chris Jericho drops the Ring of Honor title. So I don't know where his days are headed now with AEW. He's going to be around. He loves the company. He's not going anywhere. Except he dropped the Ring of Honor title. at Wrestle Dream, which I didn't expect. Now go to WWE quickly, call
To Mark Briscoe.
and Mark Briscoe. Yeah, and you know what? The old man Jericho, 53 years of age, he's still got it. I don't know where he gets it, but he's got it.
Yeah.
Alexa Bliss supposedly is on the way back and will be a part of the Wyatt Six, who are getting lost in the shuffle. But I wonder where they're going, the Wyatt Six, now, because are they going against the Dark? What's the Paul Ellering is the manager there with the Wyatt Six. They've been lost in the shuffle. They're lost.
To be honest with you, I am not sure who they're going.
But Alexa Bliss is on the way back, and she's probably going to be a part of the Wyatt Six. And Crown Jewel coming up just in a few weeks in Saudi Arabia, where, the kings and princes there, they're pro wrestling fanatics and putting their money into their great deal with WWE. Interesting. 2 new title belts. It's developing. Jack's my favorite. Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley. And then you're going to get Gunther and Cody for this Crown Jewel title. And that throws me off because Gunther now would go Goldberg, Goldberg's back, supposedly. So that's another title. No, do you think Goldberg and Cody, Goldberg and Gunther, is that going to happen?
The way that could work is you want to make Gunther look like not the better person, but a stronger person is by you taking out Goldberg. Because Goldberg was always the dominant force. But if you take out a Hall of Famer like Goldberg, that takes you to the next level in the company.
I don't think the Goldberg would only come back for one thing: money, and they want that the legend that he was to come back one more time. And Triple H loves him. He invited him ringside there in Atlanta for Bad Blood, and that might be happening. And finally, the Bloodline angle, just the most compelling, perplexing angle in WWE. This is the one. It's no longer Judgment Day. That seems to be breaking up more and more. Even Damian Priest going on his own. Jay and Jimmy Uso, do they reunite and help Roman Reigns? They're teasing it. I'm sure it's going to happen. Setting up war games.
If you also notice, if you notice, The Rock showed up
last week. Yeah. So is The Rock going to make Roman Reigns at WrestleMania? Maybe that they want to do that. They might be leading to that. We'll have to wait till War Game Survivor Series next month up in Vancouver, up there in Canada. But I think it's the Rock more and more getting involved again back in the action because his Hollywood schedule's thinned down a bit.
Right. But real quick, baseball news, the Yankees just lost in the 10th inning, 7-5.
Was it because of the stupid ghost runner?
I don't know if it was the ghost runner.
I don't know. I'll take a look at my feed, but that won't hurt them.
No, Fry homer to the center, and
Naylor off Weaver. I know this isn't wrestling, boxing, but look, we're in the height of a big baseball postseason in New York, so we got we don't know who to root for here. But anyway, Carl, thanks, my friend. We'll look at the Bloodline, see where that goes on SmackDown again tomorrow night on USA Network. And Joe Testador, our colleague, keep doing a great job there on Monday Night Raw. I like 2 hours of Raw. Do you?
Yes.
Much better. All right. Call final timeout. We're going to take our final break briefly, come back, do some nostalgia briefly, and wrap it up this week. Rich Mancuso here. This is Keep It in the Ring. Like, comment, subscribe. My YouTube channel, AGT Network, String Punk Entertainment. Back in a jiffy. Stay with us.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go.
Keep it in the ring, wrapping it up here. We're going a little over an hour tonight. Thank you, Carl, for stepping in for Scott Church. And again, our condolences to you and your family. Nostalgia this week. Briefly, let's go to it. Put the image up, Carl. October 23rd, 1962. There's Dick Tiger, the 15-round. Remember, back then, 15-round championship fights. Perhaps if Bivol and Beterbiev went 15 rounds instead of 12, we'd have a decisive winner and not a bogus judge scoring at 116, 112. But here, Dick Tiger, the 15-round unanimous decision over Gene Fullmar, two great legends. San Francisco, the fight was WBA middleweight title. First of three bouts between these two. Tiger, 2 wins in a split decision in that rivalry, October 23rd, 1962. And back on October 20th, 1979, not too long ago, though I was a younger kid, back then, I had more hair on my head. I was a little skinnier and weight. Not that I'm not overweight and to be a wrestling heavyweight. This one was Jerry Coetzee in the heavyweight division. Was John Tate. If you remember that heavyweight name, those now, you may not know these guys. Look them up, but they were part of that great heavyweight title mix back in the 70s. Coetzee from South Africa and John Tate. And it was a 15-round unanimous decision that took place in Pretoria, South Africa, Coetzee's hometown. And it was for the vacant WBA heavyweight title. Again, we had Alphabet Soup then, too. We had the WBA, WBC that's been around for the longest, and the WBC. And then the IBF came into the picture, and the WBO, and the ABC, and the ABG, whatever. It's all alphabet soup. It's a part of boxing politics. But back in 1962, and in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, 60s, whatever, we didn't have alphabet soup titles. That's why the sport, as I discussed with our great friend Keith Idec earlier on the hour this week on Keep It in the Ring, why we discussed, boxing politics, the titles, but how much money is in the sport that, could be considered a healthy sport, yet doesn't get the deserving publicity and attention in mainstream that it once was because of all the confusion and hysteria as we saw with Bivol and Beterbiev. Again, hopefully there'll be a rematch and Dmitry Bivol will get his opportunity to get the light heavyweight titles back because, my friends, it should have been, as I said, 114, 115, a draw, or at least a one-round decision, but it didn't go that way. My friends, that's it for this week. We Keep It in the Ring. We had a fast hour. Thank you, Keith Idec, again. Thank you, Carl, for stepping in again, doing a great job. Hope you enjoyed this hour as much as I did doing it for you each and every week. Live on my YouTube channel, Rich Mancuso, AGT Network, and String Punk Entertainment. Do like, comment, and subscribe. Also, my social media again, X, Twitter, Ring786, Facebook.com, Rich Mancuso. Read my content on LatinoSports.com. Also on Facebook.com, Rich Mancuso. Get me there. X, Twitter, whatever. I'll get back to you. I got to wrap this up. I got to get back to the baseball playoffs, which are just as good as a good 12 or 15-round championship fight. So until next week, my friends, as I always say, and I mean it to my heart, God bless, stay well, be good to each other. And as always, keep it in the ring. I'm Rich Mancuso. Thank you for watching. See you next week.